Hello! How are you all doing? I am doing quite well and I'm happy to be talking to you all again. Do you like how my shirt kind of blends in with my comforter back here? Isn't that great? Anyways, love this shirt, but that's not the topic for today. Couple things I want to get out of the way. Firstly, this is an unedited video. Once I get to 1,000 subscribers, I will hire an editor and my videos will be even better. Secondly, I'm experimenting with some lighting and a new phone stand, so I have no idea if my camera angle looks good or not, but this is the best I could figure out for now. And thirdly, I am a follower of Jesus, but even though I'm a follower of Jesus, I believe love really does conquer all. I believe in acceptance, so I want people with different beliefs to feel welcome here. Whether you believe in God or not, your political views, your race, your gender, sexual orientation, whomever, I want you all to feel safe and welcome and feel like you can express your opinions in the comments in a respectful way and disagree, agree. It's okay. We're all, this is the nature of humanity, and this is one of the things that I think is very beautiful about life, is that we can all be so unified and yet so different all at the same time. At least that's my hope. So this video is about Paul and Morgan's response to Rhett and Link's experience with purity culture. Now, I personally didn't think what Rhett and Link said was all that bad. In fact, I agreed with some of what they said. And that's partly because I am a purity culture survivor as well. I do not like purity culture. I think it does more harm than good. And I think it spreads a lot of lies that I will make in a future video. So stay tuned for that. The other thing I want to say is I am hopefully coming from a place of respect. And if any of you also want to address Paul and Morgan's opinion on this, please do so with kindness and respect. Hate, bullying, all of that is just an unacceptable behavior, and it's something I will not tolerate on my channel, and it's something none of you should tolerate either. Okay, now to address some of what Paul and Morgan said in their video. Firstly, just to start with something positive, I did like what Morgan had to say in some ways. She addressed the issue of the fact that women have been blamed a lot in the church, and she mentioned that men have not been held accountable, and I completely agree with that. Thank you, Morgan, for saying that, because it is so true, and it is one of the reasons why I don't go to church anymore, because I got tired of women being told how to dress, women being told how to behave, women had to be a certain way, all this about women. And I kept thinking, when I would hear these lies being taught us, what they are, they're lies, is how come men aren't being held accountable? Because, as Morgan also said, self-control is a fruit of the Spirit. And the fruit of the Spirit is not gender specific. It doesn't apply only to women, it applies to everyone. And I did not appreciate how Paul seemed to cut her off in that regard, or not really validate her comments about that, which I guess it's okay but not okay, because Paul is a man, so he doesn't have the full as woman's perspective on this and how hurtful it is to women. And so I didn't appreciate how he kind of blew her off. And that leads me to Paul's comments, which I thought were, I disagreed with them. I'll just say that. So the one main comment that Paul made that I want to address is when the topic of people who've had premarital sex are told that they are chewed up bubble gum, half-eaten candy bars, a flower without petals on it, etc. And he kind of went on to almost justify this. And I went, okay, I didn't know people were still justifying that at this point in time. But he used a biblical example that had nothing to do with purity culture, because, side note, purity culture is not in the Bible, which I'll get to in a minute. But I'm looking off to the side here because I have some notes. And Paul said that there was this, God used strong analogies in referring to the Old Testament Israelites and their disloyalty to God, and how God used some strong language to call them out for their spiritual adultery. And yes, that is true. God did do that. Either that or it's the author's interpretation and what they were writing down. Let's not forget the Bible was written by people, inspired by God, so to speak. So that is not a good analogy, Paul. It's just not. You cannot use what God or the author of those Old Testament Bible stories were, what they wrote, and use that to justify people, especially women, being referred to as chewed up bubblegum, etc. That is an intellectually lazy analogy. So if you're gonna use the Bible to justify your beliefs, do it the right way. And that was not the right way. That was using the Bible to justify a terrible, hurtful teaching. And I will go into more details in later videos about why those teachings are hurtful, but this video is about Paul and Morgan, so I'm just gonna stick with that topic. The other thing I want to say, as I previously mentioned, purity culture is not biblical. It is not. It's just not. And it logically, because I'm a logical person, really concerns me that there are still Christians trying to use scripture to justify sexual purity. When, referring to my notes here, purity rings aren't in the Bible. Purity balls are not in the Bible. Purity pledges are not in the Bible. And just a side note about pledges, let's look at what Jesus had to say about pledges or making vows. You have also heard that our ancestors were told, you must not break your vows, you must carry out the vows you make to the Lord. But I say, do not make any vows. Does that apply to purity pledges too? I think it does. Do not say by heaven, because heaven is God's throne, and do not say by earth, because the earth is his footstool, and do not say by Jerusalem, for Jerusalem is the city of the great king. But do not even say by my head, for you can't turn hair white or black. Just say a simple yes I will or no I won't. Anything beyond this is from the evil one. So all these ceremonies where kids, especially girls, are given rings, and then they make some purity pledge to save themselves for marriage, which saving yourself for marriage, that phrase isn't in the Bible either, by the way. That could be from the evil one. Is that what Jesus is saying? Just saying, we need to be really careful, Paul Morgan, what we're teaching people. So, back to my notes here. So there are, in fact, some highly concerning Bible stories in the Bible in terms of sex and sexuality. Like there's a scripture that says that women should marry their rapist. I'm like, no, that ain't God talking. There's another scripture, I believe it's in Deuteronomy, where if a man sleeps with a woman, he is supposed to pay the virgin price. I'm sorry, I guess I should just read the scripture, but okay. Or he's supposed to marry her, and then they are without sin. So in a sense, God did make a concession for people who had sex before marriage. And I know that that scripture specifically is referring to the cultural context of thousands of years ago, where a woman's value, which was in her virginity, which is a lie and is nonsense and not true, but I will get into that in another video. There's a story of Samson and Delilah and their chaotic relationship, and how God didn't condemn Samson and Delilah for having a sexual relationship. There's King David and his affair or committing adultery with Bathsheba, and God still called David a man after his own heart. And even in the New Testament, where sexual immorality is referred to, Christians don't actually teach what sexual immorality actually is. And I have a really hard time quoting the Apostle Paul's writings on sexuality, because historical information about him shows us that he was highly puritanical and almost did not even believe in marriage. He was a big promoter in teaching celibacy. So he is not the best and most credible source on sexuality. So if we're going to use the Bible, we need to be using it appropriately. And I will be making many videos on this in the future, because I am a purity culture survivor, and I do believe in something called sexual integrity. And I do refer to the Bible sometimes, and I am a Bible college graduate, and so I've actually spent decades studying the Bible, which is why I think I have a pretty valid opinion on my views of the Bible at this point. And so, as I said before, I hope this is respectful, and I hope that this is simply to expand your thoughts, and maybe not just take what Paul and Morgan say as the ultimate truth, because it is just their experience, as well as Rhett and Link. It is just their experience. And as Christians, I hope we can get to a point where people's life experiences are valid, even if we don't agree with them. But the reason why I'm cautioning you all about Paul and Morgan is because they present themselves as an authority on scripture, when I shared in a couple of examples of why they aren't doing a good job of that. Anyways, so I hope, Paul and Morgan, if you see this video, I hope that you grow and you improve and you learn to quote the Bible appropriately and hold it in the place it should be in, which I will get to in details in another video as well, but this video is getting too long as it is. So just stay tuned for more content like this, as I'm excited to continue talking to you all. And anyways, I love you all. I'm sending hugs and love, and take care until I see you again. Mwah.